Hello and welcome back to a Method to the Madness Breaking Bad edition. I'm your host Patrick, and joining me, as always, is Mitchie.
Hello, Pat.
This week's episode, Breaking Bad Season 3, Episode 7, titled 1 Minute. This episode sees Hank mercilessly beating Jesse to a pulp.
Yeah, the downward spiral of Hank, I would say, is what this episode's about. Yeah.
Alright, let's go through a plot summary.
Alright. A flashback in Mexico shows a young Leonel Salamanca complaining to his uncle Hector about a broken toy. In response, Hector shoves Marco's head in a tub of icy water despite Leonel's objections, and finally releases him while proclaiming family is everything. In the present, Leonel and Marco light candles at a makeshift Santa Muerta shrine. In the center, they place a photo of Hank Schrader. Furious that he was tricked into believing that his wife was in the hospital, Hank goes to Jesse Pinkman's house and attacks him as he opens the door. He knocks Jesse out cold before realizing that he's gone too far. Paramedics come and wheel Jesse away to the hospital as Hank stares in awe. Walt and Saul arrive at the hospital and meet Jesse. Walt notes that they would be in jail if they had not tricked Hank after Jesse blames him for his predicament. Jesse also claims that he will make Hank's life miserable, and despite Saul's objections, threatens to hand Walt to the DEA if he or Saul intervenes. At the DEA, Hank makes a statement about what happened at the junkyard, but pleads the fifth when it comes to his actions at Jesse's house. He is then informed that Jesse is filing charges for his actions. Cool, there's a link for that. Now I can learn what that means.
Pleads the fifth. That just means, like, not saying anything, right?
The Fifth Amendment. Well, I need, like, what is the Fifth Amendment?
I don't know.
Okay, right, okay. Anyway.
No, it's pertinent. What does it say?
Wow, the Fifth Amendment, Patrick, it says... It just gives me the Fifth Amendment to the United States Constitution, and I ain't an American, so I don't give a fuck about that shit. Here in Australia, we don't have a constitution, so the police are, like, busting down our doors every day and shit.
It's the Wild West out here, my boy.
Yeah, fucking oath. We don't have freedom of speech. Technically speaking, we actually don't.
Really?
Yeah, like, there's no... technically like some clause in the law that says that everyone has a right to freedom of speech, which is why it's pretty easy here for like neo-Nazis and shit to be shut down politically and like publicly and stuff. You can just go and arrest them for being Nazis, which is like completely against Constitution in America.
That's really interesting.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of a I don't know about it, but anyway, I didn't answer your question, did I?
It's all right. I
says one provision of the Fifth Amendment requires that felonies be tried only upon indictment by a grand jury. There you go. So I guess he gets to go on trial, basically. He's allowed to have a fair trial.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to the police, his police force and his like work employers being the ones that kind of decide his fate. He instead goes through the law and hires a lawyer as a civilian. I think that's what that generally means. So he's actually lawfully fighting the police force.
Well, in this day and age, it would probably be better to let it be internally resolved since all the cops are fucking corrupt anyway. They just take you off one day. This is a pretty inaccurate representation, yeah.
I mean, yeah. Although maybe it was on the news or something, they couldn't do anything. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. So we get some characterization as to why these twins are some one-dimensional psychopaths.
They only have Psychopath 101.
Yeah, they only have one value, that is family.
Yeah, their father will just drown them. Like, what the fuck?
I mean, like it's concise to the point. It makes sense.
Mexico, bro.
Yeah. How yellow was that opening scene? Like, god damn, that was.
It's kind of taking a piss, eh? Yeah, it's like such a typical thing to like have a yellow tinge on everything when it's in Mexico, but this is just like taking it to the extreme.
Yeah, it kind of gives it like a dream sequence vibe, though.
Yeah, kind of reminds me of like Contagion.
Yeah. And this tells us also that Hank, what's the Salamanca in the wheelchair? Hector. That he was once, he was not in it. It was, a fully functional human being.
Even though the chair he's in is like a wooden fucking wheelchair with no real wheels on it. It looks exactly like a wheelchair. Like, obviously to indicate that it is Hector and stuff and it's him. But like, yeah. Why would you sit in that kind of chair if you didn't have to sit in the wheelchair? But anyway.
And then, so Hank's obsession reaches a fever pitch and he beats the ever-living crap out of Jesse.
Our token punching bag.
Yeah. So in this scene, are we empathetic of Hank in his actions, or are we more on Jesse's side, do you reckon?
I think we're empathetic with Hank.
Yeah?
I think that's what I believe that's what the general audience would believe. Like, not saying everyone, but the majority would. because well, you understand where Hank's coming from, right? And Jesse was the one in the fucking RV, so you can from Hank's perspective, it makes complete sense. And sure, he went over the top by beating him up, but like what they did to Hank was truly wrong. To use his wife as like bait in a way to get him away from there and really kind of freak him out, like that's just like it's inexcusable crime, really. So I believe so. And I know Walt, like Jesse's not the one that called them, and it's more Walt, but Jesse's still at fault because he was the one that wanted to also not get arrested too. So I don't know. I've read some things and people are like, oh, well, Walt's the one that really did it, and I'm like, well, not really. They both did it together.
Well, that's interesting. I disagree. I think Jesse is the one that we're meant to be on his side for in this scene, just because he's defenseless. Like he did do those things, but in that particular moment, why it was so wrong is because Jesse wasn't a threat. He wasn't doing anything. Hank just went up to him and beat him. Sure. Yeah.
But sure, at the moment, sure. But what he did a couple hours before that by calling, Hank through Marie and etc. the whole hospital incident. I mean, Jesse is to blame for that, right? So he got what was coming to him.
Yeah, no, I think Jesse is, culpable for what he did, for what Walt did as well. But I don't know. I still think in this particular scene we're meant to be more empathetic with Jesse.
True. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. I mean, but at the end of the day, Jesse's the one that's cooking meth, and Hank is like a police officer looking for people cooking meth. So Jesse's always the one in the wrong anyway.
Yeah.
So it all ultimately comes down to that from a more holistic perspective, without being too emotionally attached to characters in this TV series.
I mean, yeah, obviously, for sure.
Okay.
And then, so they go visit him in the hospital.
Yeah.
Saul's doing the Saul quips. Oh, you're officially the cute one in the group. Paul, meet Ringo. Then,
what about who's the cunt from Rocky? Rocky wants his face back.
all great zingers. And then Saul and Walt are talking outside the room, and he's saying how Jesse's gonna rat you out. And he goes, no honor among thieves. Well, except for us, of course.
Yeah.
Fucking slimy piece of shit. Mm. And then Saul suggests, options. As in, kill Jesse so he won't talk to the police. This is like a pretty fucking dark place that Saul goes, up until this point in the series.
Yeah.
It hasn't really been suggested that Saul's corrupt, but he's not involved in murder or anything.
I mean, he has implied killing Badger when he was in jail.
Oh, did he? Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think it's something he's too far into.
But yeah, I like this dimension of Saul's character.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I really like Jesse's monologue off the bed.
And how it doesn't cut.
No, and Aaron Paul, I reckon this is like some of his best acting is from the fucking hospital bed. Seriously. Like, he's so good. In this episode, there's a couple monologues he does, and yeah, this one at the start when he's like telling Walt what he's gonna do to Hank, how he's gonna be in some fucking shithole wiping a toilet down, and he'd be standing above him taking a share. It was just so good. Like, yeah,
that was like a proper full-on monologue. Hey, like,
yeah,
there's a few of these in the series that are really good. Yeah.
Skylar visits Walt at his condo. He initially believes she is mocking him, but she pleads with him to pacify Jesse so that Hank does not face charges. Walt refuses despite Skylar's assertion that Hank is his family and asks her to leave. Later at the lab, Gale attempts to be friendly with Walt, but he gives him the cold shoulder. He forces a disagreement with Gale and later convinces a reluctant Gus to make Jesse his partner again. At the hospital, Walt pitches a job to Jesse, who mocks it as a ploy to save Hank. He initially refuses, citing Walter's previous wrongdoings of him, but he eventually calls Walt and says he agrees to the partnership. Keep on?
Yeah.
In the desert, Lionel and Marco meet with a trucker hawking an array of weapons. He gives them a free hollow point bullet and shows off his bulletproof vest, which Lionel and Marco test by shooting him point blank. When he survives, they purchase 2 vests and leave him on the floor complaining about possible broken ribs.
So, this dude who's like selling the guns, talking about, oh, you think the girls in colder climates would like to get peed on, but it's the warmer ones.
Yeah.
This dude looks a lot like Jim Carrey, don't you think?
I thought he looks like fucking Vince Gilligan.
What? Have you seen Vince Gilligan?
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of him. The same accent and shit, like real kind of rednecky American.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, he does sound alike. I don't think he looks alike.
Nah, he kind of looks like him too, like a young version of him. Like it could be his son or some shit.
Yeah, right.
I thought maybe it was his son, but it's not.
Anyway, great character. Like, just in 5 minutes in one episode of Breaking Bad, and he just fucking steals the show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
Some great little fucking nuggets of character.
Yeah.
So yeah, Walt growing dissatisfied with Gale, telling him he got the measurements wrong when it probably wasn't the case, right? Walt's just getting fed up. So what exactly do you think shifted Walt's mood?
I don't know. I don't know, man. Like, fucking Walt, he's just a fucking idiot. Like, he's such a difficult person. And, yes. If I had to deal with someone like that in real life, I would literally just quit my job rather than deal with someone like that. Like, he's such a cunt. Like, there's no other word to describe him. I don't think there is any real reason. Like, I mean, what's fucking happened? Since the last time he met Gale, which was in the last episode, and they were getting along really well with the nerdy poem and shit, the whole RV incident happened, right? And I don't really see how that would link to this and making him feel like he should be a dick to Gale, Like, is he setting up for Hank's purpose, like to save him because he knows that he beat up Jesse?
Wait, who?
Like, by that point, is because we know that he wants Jesse back, right? And he's using that potentially as a way to save Hank so he doesn't press charges on Hank. So is he simply just putting on an act and he actually doesn't have a problem with Gale? He just wants to get rid of him for other purposes.
I don't think that occurs to him yet. I think, later on in the episode that he calls Gus to tell him that. But at this point, I think Walt is he's the kind of person that when he has a bad day, he just takes it out on other people. And at this point, when he flies off the handle at Gale, he's just being like a child. And then from that, he gets the idea, maybe I can, get rid of Gale and then get Jesse in and, kill two birds with one stone kind of thing.
And maybe also, yeah, you're right in saying that he needs to vent onto someone, right? Perhaps Gale isn't the right person to vent off because he's too fucking perfect. He does everything correct in the lab and he does nothing wrong. While Jesse, if he's in there, is like the ultimate like verbal punching bag, right? Like he would fuck up all the time and shit, and Jesse will take it because he doesn't really know what's going on. But Gale meticulously writes down all these temperatures and shit. You can't prove him wrong on anything but he tries to stick with it anyway, and that's probably why.
That's true. Walt needs someone to fucking berate.
Yeah, he's a fucking dick. The more I watch this show, the more I really hate Walt. Like,
Yeah, he makes some really stupid decisions that I yell at the screen at.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish this off.
All right. At the DEA office, Hank admits to assaulting Jesse and is suspended without pay and has his gun confiscated. As Hank departs, he learns Jesse is not pressing charges after all. Later, Hank is in a parking lot when he gets a phone call and an electronically disguised voice tells Hank that he has 1 minute to leave before 2 men show up to kill him. At first, he wonders if it is a prank call, but after 1 minute, Lionel and Marco arrive and ambush Hank. He reverses, wounding Lionel, but Marco catches Hank on the ground. As Marco reloads, he drops a hollow point bullet and decides to kill Hank using an axe. Hank reaches for Lionel's gun and shoots Marco in the head as the axe lands right next to him.
All right, great little setup with the bullet earlier. And that comes back into play.
Yeah, that's the kind of shit that I watch Breaking Bad for. Just little fucking like connections in the story like that. It's so good.
Yeah. So earlier, I think when Hank initially is talking to the two police or to whoever they are, explaining, the situation, and then he gets in the elevator with Marie, and it's such a great little cut where they're standing next to each other, and then as they're going down, they're hugging it out, and he's crying, and then it opens again, and they're just back in the same position as they were.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, as you were saying, we have this great little scene of Marie and Hank talking on their bed. And this is this is where Hank's journey sort of climaxes, right?
Yeah.
And it's, what's fun, what's interesting is how Hank, he says, I don't sleep at night anymore, because he's not true to himself. Whereas with Walt, it was the opposite. Remember in one episode a while back, he says how since he got the cancer, and by extension, he doesn't say this, but by extension, since he became a criminal, he says he sleeps just fine.
Yep. Okay. Interesting.
Yeah. So both their versions of becoming themselves are inverted, right? So Hank finds himself the most comfortable when he's being the good guy, and then Walt finds himself the most comfortable when he's being the bad guy.
Right.
Yeah, which is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, what do you think about the scene?
Oh, it's just so moving. Like, it's it's nice to see this kind of massive change in the character. Like Hank, to begin with, we just see him as this like kind of bit of a rough police officer. And like you said, like maybe not really kind of academically intelligent, a lot of street knowledge and beating up criminals, that kind of attitude and cracking all the jokes and stuff, He's likable, but he's not someone that seems like he's very deep. And just this season, these last couple episodes and this episode in particular and that scene in particular really shows that like, we're actually giving some sort of dimension to this character and it just makes him all the better, and it's also just really sad in general, just because we've followed this guy through these last 2.5 seasons, through his career in the police force for the DEA, and now it's coming to an end too, because of no other reason than his fucking brother-in-law, who's a cunt, and also Hank just tried too hard. He was looking for Heisenberg too hard, and that resulted in him losing his job. Like it's just all such a tragedy, really. Like he was only doing his job, and it led to all that.
Well, what's tragic is that all that you just said, it's not necessarily a bad thing, because as we see, like it leads to when he hands in his badge and gun, he buys flowers for Marie. Like he's looking real happy.
Yeah,
and
you're right.
It looks like his life is about to like be going on the up and up from here. And then these two, these two fucking brothers attack him, and this shootout occurs at the absolute worst time for Hank.
Yeah,
just when he was about to self-actualize,
Oh, fucking hell! It's brutal for him, right? Yeah, you're right. Like, he does seem happy finally, and also Jesse's not pressing charges too. So
yeah,
it might be all okay anyway. But then he gets shot up and ends up with a fucked up back, can't walk and shit. So. Yeah, no, you're right. It is a tragedy, really. That bit's a tragedy.
It's a cool scene though.
Oh, the end scene.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. It is like, it's a real tense scene. I don't know why. Like, it's not particularly long or the action isn't like particularly unique or anything like that, but I really enjoy it. I think what the reason why is because, there's the irony of you knowing what's going to happen, as the audience knows what's going to happen. And also just the investment in Hank, like the emotional investment you've had and put into him over the last couple episodes because of all the shit that's happening. And that's what makes this action scene so good. You really root for Hank. You actually care, which most action scenes you don't.
Yeah, no, good point. Yeah.
Also, he's a hard ass, fucking hell.
yeah. What, he got shot like 4 times and he still manages to load that bullet in the gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't give up, like, right, like, in the second before that dude's about to bring the axe down, he's still fucking fighting.
Yeah, that's what I mean, man. That's what remember when you said the other day, like, if Hank got buff, he'd be like Bruce Willis?
Right.
Yeah, it's like, but Hank will probably beat the fuck out of Bruce Willis. Like, he's just that guy, he doesn't look particularly muscular or anything, but you can tell that you don't want to mess with him. Like, he'd win every single bar fight that's thrown at him.
Oh, yeah, for sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you for listening, and join us next time.
Boy.
Everything that's happened, I swear to God, Marie, I think the universe is trying to tell me something, and I'm finally ready to listen. I'm just not the man I thought I was.
If you like this series, Mitch is going to tell you where you can find more of these.
Yep, so you can find us on Spotify, YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, or Stitcher. And we've also got a website, amttm.com, where you can find our fabulous episodes on Breaking Bad.
If you have any questions, queries, insights, or criticism, you can send them to mail@amttm.com.
And as always, thank you for listening.